Bob Myers talked about an extension for Steph Curry. He's confident they'll get something done. He said, quote, "I don't see any reason not to be optimistic." So, Brandon, the Warriors' confidence in a Steph Curry extension is blank.
It's warranted. Look, a lot of the conversation the last couple months, and I was one of those indulging in this conversation of Steph Curry going to Los Angeles and teaming up with LeBron James. That's all media-driven right now. Steph Curry hasn't said anything about it. He hasn't had a frown on his face outside of them getting their butts whooped a couple games back in April. But other than that, this is all media-driven. Look, they've won several championships together. They rebuilt this organization. You know, they brought life back to the Bay. You know, you're talking about the Raiders, who haven't really been good for a long time before they made the move to Vegas. So I don't see Steph Curry having the traits of a player that's going to stand up, ask for a trade, you know, have these huge demands. Now, if I was in Steph's shoes, I would be looking elsewhere because I'm still in the prime of my career and I want to win championships. This guy could go down as a guy that has 5, 6 rings, but I don't think we're going to see that if he stays there. But unfortunately, Steph doesn't have those traits, so I see him coming back. So it's warranted. It's warranted.
Yeah, I'm not quite as optimistic as Brandon. I'd say it's not 100%. If Bob Myers was fully confident, he would have said, we are re-signing Steph Curry. But it's complicated in both perspectives. From Steph's perspective, it's okay. I had arguably the best season of my career, and we finished ninth in the West. Like, how good can we be even when Clay comes back? From the Warriors' perspective, the contract they would be offering him would be paying him $115 million for 2 seasons where he would be older than LeBron is currently. His age 37 and age 38 seasons would come in at $115 million. So I think there's a little trepidation while it's potentially on both parties' behalf. That's why I don't think it's 100%.
All right, I'm going to throw it back to you in a second, Nick. My answer was without precedent. I couldn't find another parallel for a guy like Steph leaving the organization that he was drafted by. And I just tried to find some random free agents who left. Or Harden forced his way out. But we see a lot like that where it's like, all right, this guy gave everything he has to the organization. He wants to win. He can go. LeBron, like, all right, he delivered a championship. He's got bigger aspirations. We're okay with it. He can go. Tom Brady, it's like, all right, the organization thinks he doesn't have enough in the tank. He can leave. None of those are quite Steph. The organization believes in him. He was drafted there, and they still think they can win. So I don't know who he looks at and be like, you know what? I can run my career like this guy. I don't know who that guy is.
Kobe Bryant.
If the Warriors
Kobe
are willing
Bryant.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. But
Kobe
stayed,
never left.
obviously.
Right, yeah, he's trying to see a guy who left.
To Kobe's point, Nick, real quick, I could see the Kobe Bryant parallel where the Lakers give him all that money almost as like a thank you. Almost like, hey, you're our legendary player. Here's all the money. You might not be worth this on the open market for your skills right now, but it is we owe this to you.
The example of a Hall of Fame player leaving late in his career that comes to mind for me, because obviously like Garnett left, but that wasn't that late in his career, as late, he'd played 10 years, would be Clyde Drexler. When he left Portland, like, I can't get it done here, went to Houston, won a title, but he hadn't won a title. So it's different. And so Clyde's like the one that came, I'm trying to just top my head, but yeah, it would be Brandon somewhat without precedent, which is why I think you think he's probably staying.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to throw that out there, Wiles, the Kobe situation, because that's, to me, how it's going to play out. You know, when you talk about, you know, years 30, when he's 37 and 38, being paid all of that money. I mean, that's what the Lakers did. Look, they won a couple championships. Then they start folding and they start going in the opposite direction, and they kept Kobe Bryant, and Kobe Bryant wasn't, you know, pressed to go to another situation. So this, to me, could be an identical situation.
D. Wade? D-Wade maybe is a better example, Jenna. He didn't finish. I mean, he ended up in Miami, but he left.
Let's all take some time to think about different examples. But first, let's talk some weird and wonderful from the national pastime. Vladdy Guerrero Jr. continues to rake. He hit 2 more home runs last night. 15 now on the season. Great. Hey, let's play a little drawing a blank. Back to the NBA now. The Bucks used a 3-point barrage last night to just dominate Game 2, seize control in their first-round series with the Miami Heat. Giannis, 31 and 13 last night. So, Brandon, your biggest takeaway from the Bucks win was blank.
Pure domination. That's what it was. I mean, from the start. I mean, 1 minute and 30 seconds in, they led the entire way. And the Heat couldn't even get close to smelling a lead. It was that bad. The other thought that came up watching this game, because it really wasn't entertaining, you know, because you thought that it would be a better series when you go back to what happened in the bubble last year. But that's what it took me back to. You know, the Miami Heat had an edge because of their mindset, their leadership. And it shows just how important that was last year in the bubble, because this was pure domination. How do you go from dominating these guys last year in the bubble to this game looking like you're not even supposed to be on the court? So, Nick, this was pure domination for me. And I need you to also do me a favor. Please, 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 when we get to round 2 and then we got the Nets, potentially the Bucks, or whenever they meet, I don't want you ever to reference this this series, because the Miami Heat don't even deserve to be on the court with the Bucks.
Oh,
man.
we won't have to. Oh, we won't have to. No. Nets-Bucks is going to maybe be the series of the playoffs. But I'm going to look at this from the Heat perspective, because there's a great book out there I recommend for everyone called the Psychopath Test. It's like an actual test you can run to see if someone's psychopath. Well, I've come up with a sequel to that. It's called the Superstar Test. It's only one question. The question is this: can you be terrible in a playoff game and shows like this give you a pass? If the answer is yes, you are not a superstar. Jimmy Butler, 8 for 32, games 1 and 2. Nary a word of criticism. Jimmy Butler, not a superstar. Julius Randle, anybody see his game 1? Oh my God, he's an MVP candidate. Guess what? Total pass for an abysmal game 1. Not a superstar. On the other hand, Anthony Davis, terrible game 1. Annihilated. Anthony Davis, superstar. So if you're wondering, like, is Jason Tatum a superstar? Well, he went 6 for 20 in game 1 of his series and nobody cares. So the answer is no. So there's a good and a bad to that, but Jimmy Butler, great player, not a superstar, as evidenced by the fact he's been terrible through 2 games and nobody's blaming him for anything, Wilds.
I mean, that was just a brilliant take, and I loved it. And what was the first part again? There's a great book called The Psychopath Test, and I should read it to find out if I'm a psychopath? That's what you were talking about? Can you clarify that?
Well, to find out if other people are psychopaths. Yeah, it's a great book. Yeah. It's a
great book. Here's a book recommendation. It's called The Psychopath Test. Check it out. Figure out if you're a psychopath. By the way, on to Jimmy Butler. What? It's a morning show. What are you talking about? My God. All right. Speaking of odd things, Trevor Ariza, what are you up to? We're not in WWE, buddy. I know your career's coming down in the end, and maybe Jim McMahon is looking for people to, cast in the upcoming WrestleMania. But look, you tackle Giannis, I guess I could say, all right, maybe you're trying to help guide his fall. But the push-up at the end seems unnecessary and just overall kind of weak. Nick, what was your thoughts on this?
Somebody's got to take Trevor Ariza out. Brandon, Milwaukee Bucks. I don't know who it is. If it's PJ Tucker, I don't know if it's Robin Lopez. Or is somebody convinced Robin Lopez that Trevor Ariza is a mascot? Some people will get that reference, some people won't. That right there, the push-up off the guy's body, that is this close to the step over putting your midsection in a guy's face. Can't do it. Nick, you got to knock him down. You got to take him out now.
And that's okay. And that's okay. I run into Ariza all the time in South Florida. He obviously played for the Miami Heat. I live down here. He's a nice guy, but he is cut from a different cloth. This dude is an old school basketball player. So yes, What's supposed to happen is somebody on the Bucks is supposed to come out, knock him inside his head, tell him stop hitting our superstar. Yeah. By the end of the day, this is basketball. Yeah. Toughen up. Toughen up.
By the way, I meant Brooke Lopez, not Robin. My apologies.